Welcome back to Newsmax Prime. We continue to monitor what's going on in Munich, but first, Miranda Kahn is here with a political update concerning Hillary Clinton and the Democratic ticket.
That's right. It is official. Hillary Clinton announced that Virginia Senator Tim Kaine will be her running mate. Clinton announced the pick on Twitter. She tweeted this: "I'm thrilled to announce my running mate, Tim Kaine, a man who's devoted his life to fighting for others." Now we want to update you on that story in Munich. German authorities are urging any witnesses to not post any videos or photos of the shooting on social media, but to instead turn them over to investigators. Right now, they believe that only one shooter was involved and that he acted alone. They believe there were 10 victims in today's shooting spree, and they believe one of the people that was shot was, in fact, the shooter. The U.S. State Department is working with German authorities to see if any of the victims were American.
We're following the situation closely here at the department, and we're working with local authorities to determine if any U.S. citizens have been impacted.
Presumptive presidential Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton took to Twitter to weigh in on the shooting, saying this: "Monitoring the horrific situation in Munich, we stand with our friends in Germany as they work to bring those responsible to justice." Meantime, Britain's new foreign minister and former London mayor Boris Johnson also responding to the Munich shooting.
If it seems very likely this is another terrorist incident, then I think it proves once again that we have a global phenomenon now and a global sickness that we have to tackle both at source in the areas where the cancer is being incubated in the Middle East, but also, of course, around the world.
Now, as you may recall, J.D. Johnson was instrumental in that Brexit vote. Right now, police have given the all clear in the Munich shooting, and public transportation has resumed there. Again, they believe that there was only one shooter now involved in that attack.
Miranda, we very much appreciate the update on both those important stories tonight. And a reminder that you at home can join us with comments and conversation. Give me a call at 1-877-NEWSMAX. That's 1-877-639-7629. For more about Munich and what has been transpiring in Germany, we're pleased to be joined now via Skype from Jensen Beach, Florida, by retired German businessman Peter Ullmayer. He splits his time between the United States and Germany. Peter, we really appreciate your time tonight here on Newsmax Prime. I understand you're a native of Bavaria, the German state in which Munich is the capital. So as a native Bavarian, what is your reaction to news of this terror attack?
Hi, JD. Good evening. Yes, in fact, I am a native from Bavaria. My hometown is actually 60 km away from Munich. And needless to say, I'm shocked and horrified by this senseless act. My sympathy go out to the families of the victims. However, it was also clear to me that it was only a matter of time that Germany would be a target. If this indeed was an ISIS attack, I think we don't know that yet.
Yeah, so much that we don't know yet, but I'm interested really in what you noticed the last time you were back in Germany. How did your friends and neighbors react to the influx of so many refugees from the Middle East?
Yeah, look, it started with a very welcome attitude. We saw that all over in the world, even so that a lot of people want and would have liked to see a proper immigration process, which I think we were missing. I think that this uncontrolled welcome fiesta is backfiring now, and the citizens of Germany are much more skeptical and worried, and are a little bit scared what's coming in future, JD.
And Peter, whether this was an attack carried out by radicalized refugees or perhaps even domestic German terrorists is still unclear, but it causes us to pause to really try to understand the political climate in Germany. How popular are Angela Merkel's policies concerning immigration these days?
All you need to see is the result of the last state elections, where the dominant parties lost to the more extreme right-wing parties. The last attacks, the one in Würzburg and today, again, we don't know if it really was an ISIS attack, will for sure not help Chancellor Merkel for her popularity. And I personally believe that she will have a hard time to win enough votes to be re-elected.
Now, again, we're just trying to piece together all the details. Some reports have suggested that the shooter shouted out insults against foreigners and specifically against Turks. Understand there is now a large Turkish population in Germany. Have there been problems with those Turkish immigrants into Germany in the past?
Look, the Turkish immigration started years ago, and in the 60s and 70s, and I think there was not really any kind of problems in the past, with the exception 2000 and 2007. We saw the killings by the NSU, which was a neo-Nazi terror group. It was called National Socialist Underground, and there were some killings, but there was never ever really a misunderstanding against the Turks or a kind of really attacks. However, there are more attacks now to refugees in general, but not to Turkish or Kurdish people specifically.
And you mentioned something there I want to follow up on, and that is the concern about the rise of neo-Nazis. Have you seen a rise, an increase in their numbers in recent years in Germany?
Actually, I cannot prove that with figures, but I do personally believe that attacks on the foreigners is a rising tide in Germany. And since we saw the huge immigration wave last year, and especially in the new countries, the former East German countries, there is an enormous increase of right-wing attacks, yes.
Well, we take a look at the calendar, and today's attack in Munich just comes days after an ISIS-inspired teenager attacked people in a train, and that also occurred in Bavaria. Do you believe back in your native Germany, the government has started to lose control? And how safe do you feel when you're back in Germany?
Look, the overall European situation and today's attack will trigger that discussion again. But however, as you ask me, I personally believe there was not much of a control when you wave hundreds and hundreds of thousands into your country. As my good friends once said, before I invite a stranger to my house, I like to know more about him and check him out. And this should have been valid for our country as well, and valid for those refugees, which, however, is not an easy task to control that. And to answer your answer clear, I think, yes, there was not enough control.
And listening to you talk about the unbridled immigration, the failure to screen the people coming into the country, it is a cautionary tale for the United States. Peter, I want to listen again. We had a comment earlier from the new British Foreign Secretary, former London Mayor Boris Johnson. He was in New York today at the United Nations, and he called the attack in Munich part of a global sickness. Let's look and listen to what he said.
If it seems very likely this is another terrorist incident, then I think it proves once again that we have a global phenomenon now, and a global sickness that we have to tackle both at source in the areas where the cancer is being incubated in the Middle East, but also, of course, around the world. We're seeing the spillover effects in Europe, we're seeing it in Asia, we're seeing it in Australasia. It is a global phenomenon, and we need to tackle it globally.
You know, when I hear him say that, he's talking about terrorism. Again, we still don't know the source of today's attack, but he just could have as easily been talking about immigration policies when there are not ways to really screen the people who are coming into these countries.
I agree with you, JD, and this is 100% task Europe has to do first, and then, of course, Germany and every single country. This is my opinion, but as I said, I'm not a political guy.
Well, you are someone who has a unique perspective on Germany, and Peter Ullmayer, since you split your time between the United States and your native Germany, we appreciate your insights, and we want to thank you for joining us tonight. Thanks very much.
I thank you, JD. Auf Wiedersehen. Goodbye.
Bless you. Peter Ullmayer, checking in via Skype from Florida. Now, very interesting, the announcement earlier, Hillary Clinton has a running mate, former Virginia governor, current Virginia Senator Tim Kaine. Tim Kaine out on the campaign trail makes a great show of his bilingualism. The fact that he spent time living in Honduras and given the lax voting and the change in registration out in California, maybe that's going to help. But does Hillary really need that help? Something you can talk about when you call in. When we come back, though, how will Donald Trump take care of business? I mean, in the business community, taxes, regulations, economics. We'll have insights on that when we continue.